From the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, it's the second day of time trials for the 80th running of the Indianapolis 500-mile race. It's a beautiful day today in comparison with yesterday, where the rain delayed the qualifying. But boy, once the qualifying got going, we saw some action here at the Speedway. We saw the records broken, not once, but several times, and there were plenty of great stories. We'll be reviewing some of those with you. There has also been some action here this morning. And as we go through the next few minutes, I think you're going to find that the Indianapolis Motor Speedway continues its tradition, at least of drama. Danny Sullivan, have you ever seen a day like yesterday?
Well, it's always exciting on pole and qualifying day, but not like yesterday. That was really something, especially at the end.
All right, let's take a look, beginning with the run of young Davy Jones, because this was a young man that didn't get all that much attention during the rather short practice available to them during the week. They were delayed often because of rain. But when Davy Jones headed out, his first lap was at 232.9 miles an hour, and that got everybody's attention.
Well, Davy had been quiet all week, but gradually building up speed. And I think one of the things that was great about this run, it's the only Mercedes that qualified for the...
When he was complete with a four-lap run, he held off of lap 4 a 233 single-lap record, and the 4 laps at 232.882 miles an hour. He had broken Roberto Guerrero's 1 and 4 lap record. But then a car that everybody was waiting for, and a man with whom many hopes ride, Tony Stewart, driving the powerful John Menard car with that Menard V6. This was where they expected some action, and they very definitely got it.
Well, they expected a lot from him, and he did not disappoint them. He wasn't as fast as he had run during the week, but he had a very, very consistent run, all in the 233s, and he ended up with a 233.1 average, and at that time it was the pole.
And so Tony Stewart, in doing that, became the first rookie since 1983 in Teo Fabi's rookie run to break both the 1 and the 4 lap record at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, and for the time he held the pole. But the day was not nearly over. Scott Brayton had qualified a car in the second row and was comfortably in the field. But then something nobody expected just before the final gun. They withdrew the car that he had qualified, and they put him in another car ready to take a run for the pole. Scott Brayton very definitely wanted to duplicate his feat of sitting on the pole last year. So that car rolled out, and we were now ready to see whether or not in the final moments Scott Brayton could get that job done. And this is how we called it late yesterday afternoon. And now, here is Scott Brayton to start his qualification attempt after they withdrew the car that he was already in the field with. What an amazing change of circumstances and some courage on the part of his owner, John Menard. There would be some question as to whether or not Scott Brayton or Eddie Cheever really ought to be in his car. Cheever was faster in the morning session.
Well, that's right, but this is Scott Brayton's backup car. There's Eddie Cheever, of course. There's Scott Brayton's backup car, so it really goes to him. Densmore was in Eddie Cheever's backup car. And the one thing that is critical here, when they withdraw Scott Brayton's qualified car, it's out. So he has to go. If he blows a motor right now, anything goes wrong, he's lost his spot.
And if any... And the first lap comes out at 233 points. It's not quick enough to get the track record, but remember, Ari Lyondike's first lap was slow. And right here, actually in our position, Tony Stewart's trying to get the crowd to get up and cheer and get this run going. Looking at the conclusion of lap number 2 now, as Scott Brayton, his primary car withdrawn, cuts the lap down just a bit, 233.536.
Although if he stays consistent like that, he's got a better chance of taking away, because remember, Ari Lyondike's first lap was a 231. That's going to be hard to make that up. If he stays consistent in the 233s, Lyondike's average was 233.390.
That's the 4-lap average, and he is running at 233.6 as an average right now, and we're at the 3/4 mark. Lap lap number 3 at 2:33.809. His average 2:33.673. He is still fast enough to take the pole away from Arie Luyendyk. What a dramatic turn of events. They withdraw a car safely into the field to take a chance on the pole, and for 3 laps it's been paying off.
And he's doing a great job, very consistent here. His lap times are right on the money, and that 1 lap might come back to haunt Arie Luyendyk at 2:31.
Looking for lap number 4, 2:33.851.
He does it.
The 4 laps at 233.718. He's done it. He's taken the pole away from Arie Luyendyk. What a gamble. He improves the 4-lap average to 2:33.718. That is the new track record.
We came here to be number 1, and I just got to thank my team. They're just an awesome bunch of guys. They're the ones that gave me the opportunity, because for them, I could have never done it.
Was there any second thoughts when they came to you and said, look, let's pull you out of a qualified position and give you the shot?
No. None. I came here to run up front, and, you know, I was pleased, but I was disappointed, you know, and I wanted to be there. And oh, man. Thanks, Eddie. Thanks. I tell you, when I saw the 33.6, I go, oh my God, I gotta find it somewhere. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you found it. Where did you find it?
Well, the odd thing is first I want to congratulate Arie on making a great run. Then I want to tell Arie, this is his car from last year. This is the car that set second. And I hadn't had a chance to get in it. It's the car that I've been running at Orlando and Phoenix, and so until this afternoon was the first time I went out. First time by was 34. So I said, guys, I'm ready. Roller in line. And we stayed with the tires. You know, they had a lot of laps on them, everything, and I mean, they held in there, baby. It was great. Thanks, John. Good job.
Just imagine the kind of courage it took to take a car that was safely qualified in the second row, pull it out. It would never have another chance for this race. Put in that other car. It showed that John Menard and Scott Brayton's focus was purely on the pole for the Indianapolis 500. But that reference to Arie Luyendyk, his teammate of last year, what was that all about? When we come back, we'll tell you about the triumphs of Mark Dismore and the trials of Arie Luyendyk. Back here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the yellow light shines for the moment. The track is open for practice. No one in the line, and they're making a track inspection so that they can have a unfettered practice here at the Speedway. It's not expected that we'll see any qualifying runs in the next few minutes, if at all, the remainder of the day. But that gives us a chance to go back and look at the 2 great stories from yesterday, one trickling over into this day. It was the story of Mark Dismore, and what a remarkable story this is. He was a young man who comes from nearby in Greenfield, Indiana, and when he first appeared at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, during his practice runs, he had a terrifying accident. He was coming off of the north turn in the practice in 1991 and hit the wall, broke the car in half, and suffered massive fractures and a lengthy recovery. But he climbed into one of the Menard cars yesterday and laid down laps as if he had been at the Speedway for years. 227, 227, 227, all 4 laps. He reeled off those runs and finished with a 4-lap average of 227.260 miles an hour. And as a result of that run, Mark Dismore, after coming back from that terrifying accident, had managed to qualify for the outside of the 5th row. While others were faster than he, there was certainly no one at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on this day who had persevered nearly as much, and the emotion was felt.
I think I'm going to be the guy that cried at Indy here in a minute. This is...
It is. It's an emotional time for you because you've always kept it inside of you.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Oh, I feel like AJ when he quit or something, you know. For me, I hope this is just the beginning, but I just want to thank John Menard, and, Larry Curry, and Quaker State. And
Did you ever have any doubts?
no, I never did. I don't have any doubts, and I'm really looking forward to the race, and I hope this is only the first time I cry this month.
How about the support here?
Nothing like her. I'll tell you, without her, I don't know.
Your wife was so very important to you when everything happened too, and everything that you've gone through now. When do you think it's all going to sink in, Mark?
It's sinking right now, Jack. It's been a tough deal, you know. It has. It's been a culmination of 6 years, and you know, words can't express it right now. It's like when I had my accident, it was like if I never made it back here, never made the race, all that was for nothing. You know, I got banged up for nothing, and this kind of vindicates all that. So now it's not for nothing, and I'm really looking forward to the race. I'm really looking forward to going fast in the race. So this is great.
Well, there may be faster drivers here at the Speedway, but there is certainly no more a deserving driver than Mark Dismore, who is now in the 80th running of the Indianapolis 500. And then it's the saga of Arie Luyendyk and his trials and tribulations. His day began with all the promise in the world. He was the fastest in the practice at over 239 miles an hour, 6 miles an hour over the previous track record. But then, in the morning warm-up, he caught some debris in an accident involving Johnny Parsons Jr.
I for sure got the wake-up call this morning because I really had to do quite a bit of maneuvering through the debris and his ReUL, which I almost collected it, and I think I got away this morning, so maybe we have good fortune upon us today.
Well, the fortune was good only for a few moments. He took the same car out, but this time the trouble was internal and far more serious, as an engine let go on the car again during the morning warm-up session. The crew immediately went to work and in literally record time was able to get the engine back in the car and ready to qualify again.
The team changed the engine. They did a great job of changing it pretty quick, and we hope to get some practice out here and leak check the car, and if everything is well, we'll put it in line and go for a qualifying run.
But that car was still not ready. When they tried to fire the engine, it was obvious that it was not going to qualify on the first day of time trials. So they moved to the other car, and with a half an hour to go in the run for the pole, Arie Luyendyk turned a lap at 2:31.7, and then he upped it to 2:33, and then a new one-lap record at 234.7 miles an hour, and finished the 4 laps at 233.39 miles an hour. It was good enough for the pole position in the Indianapolis 500 and the $100,000 PPG award that goes along with it. But there was still time left in the day. Though as one looked up and down the qualifying line, there did not seem to be another contender waiting to take the pole away from Arie Luyendyk. It appeared with just 25 minutes to go that Arie Luyendyk would hold the pole for the Indy 500.
I had already given up hope, really, because we had an engine go. They changed the engine, and we had a problem with that one. And then we had to go to this car, which is really the primary car, but it became our backup, and this car wasn't really as good as the other one. But I hope it's good enough for today.
But appearances can be deceiving. And suddenly, in a historic move, Scott Brayton's car was removed from this qualified position in the field, and he moved to his backup car to make a qualification run for the pole. And in the fading light of the Speedway, he set a new 4-lap record that put Brayton on the pole.
I'm a little disappointed this time, more than last year probably, because we didn't have things going our way today.
The emotional roller coaster. This is the final dip.
I guess for today it is, but we always have the race, so we'll come back on race day.
So as the final gun sounded, the front row appeared to be Brayton, Luyendyk, and Tony Stewart. But Arie's trials were not over. In the post-qualifying inspection, the car was found to be 7 pounds underweight. Now, the officials felt that there was no malice in that underweight, considering the day that the team had faced. But nevertheless, the run was disallowed, and Ari's car was not ready for the Indianapolis 500. Now the front row was Brayton, Stewart, and Jones, with Ari yet to qualify. But there was still plenty of track left for the Lion Dyke roller coaster. As soon as the track opened for qualification today, it was Ari, now in his favorite car, back out and obviously ready to run. Pride was on the line now.
Well, and he had run in the morning, just warm up. He ran a couple laps over 237 miles an hour, and he wanted that 1 and 4 lap record. He wasn't going to come.
Number one, the corner speeds came up just exactly what he expected. First lap, 2:36.2, 2:36.9 for the second, 2:37.2 for the third, and 2:37.4 for the last. Faster each lap, a 236.9 average, and a record at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Well, the whole premise of this exercise, Ari, a 1 lap and a 4 lap new track records, and they belong to you.
Well, that was the only goal. That was the only goal we could go for today. And with this car, I knew we could do it because all week long this car has been a better car than the other one we qualified yesterday. So the only bad part about obviously the whole weekend was that yesterday was very bitter and today is very sweet. You know, it's just kind of mixed emotions as far as that goes. But the crew did a great job overnight. The Bryant and Heating car was handling really well. It probably could have gotten a little bit more out of it, but it wasn't really necessary. And I'd just like to thank Fred Treadway and Jonathan Bird for not getting their heads down too much. You know, I tried to cheer everybody up yesterday. Said, you know, life goes on. There's worse things that can happen to us. So, but I'm really happy with the records because I think they'll hold for quite a bit.
What about the crew? I mean, I assume you had to get them pumped up too because they were really down last night.
Well, they were, and but they knew, you know, we all quietly had this goal of bringing this car out here today and going for the 4 lap record and the 1 lap record. And the weather couldn't be any better, so maybe today the sun was shining on us a little bit.
And because Ari qualified on this the second day, he would line up, despite the record speed, behind the yesterday qualifier. So here's the way the starting field looks right now, with Scott Brayton on the pole with the $100,000 PPG money and the second year in a row for a pole for Scott. Alongside is the rookie Tony Stewart from nearby Rushville, Indiana. And Davy Jones will start outside the front row with Mercedes-Benz power.
And of course on row 2, Eliseo Salazar, who's got that pin and plate in his leg. Scott Brayton and Tony Stewart's teammate Eddie Cheever, and of course the guy that's got 16 brakes in his back is Buddy Lazier from Vail, Colorado.
In the third row, the former track record holder Roberto Guerrero, the Italian Alessandro Zampedri, and Mexican Michael Jourdain Jr.
Row 4, of course, the first-time winner at Orlando, Buzz Calkins. Rookie Davey Hamilton driving for A.J. Foyt, number 14, and Mike Groff, who stood in and was driving the Valvoline car from Derek Walker.
In row number 5, Italian Formula One driver Michele Alboreto, and then Stefan Gregoire, who was involved in a terrible crash. Story of triumph, Mark Dismore.
Row 6, of course, is Richie Hearns, who sat on the front row at the first 2 IRL races. Johnny Unser, the only Unser in the race, kept the tradition alive, and John Paul Jr. back for his 6th attempt.
And in row 7, the only woman in the field, Lynn St. James, Jim Guthrie, and then we start today's qualifiers with Ari Luyendyk lining up behind the first day qualifiers. And qualifying after Ari, driving for A.J. Foyt, Brazilian, a former 500cc motorcycle rider, Marco Greco. 22 qualifiers, 9 of them are rookies. Let's go to Jerry Punch.
And John, the most successful car owner, Paul, in the Indianapolis Motor Speedway 1996 is John Menard. And John, I'm with you. You know, it's incredible. You're still smiling as of yesterday. 4 cars in the top 15, but a lot of courage, or at least a lot of confidence to pull out an already qualified car and go back for the pole.
Yeah, I'll be thinking about that one for quite a while. I was 95% confident we could do it. That last 5% was bothering me, but we were pretty confident about the car, and I knew Scotty could do it, and we had to take a gamble, so we did it.
Okay, we just saw Ari Luyendyk's run today, which gave him the track record. You still have the pole, and you also still have one more car left inside that's unassigned. Would you possibly try to go out and do a bullet run with that 5th car and maybe regather the track record?
Well, possibly. It would be very difficult to find the right driver at this point, I think, that's capable of going faster than what Ari went. But we may try for it. We'll see how the week progresses and what happens next weekend.
What happens when you put 4 cars in the top 15? Well, you give the team the day off. If we go inside the Menard garage, the lights are off and everyone's gone, because as the sign says, they've gone fishing.
Yeah, gone fishing, but perhaps thinking about it. Ari Luyendyk, the 1990 winner, as his face is on the Borg Warner Trophy. When we come back, we'll take a look at what Bobby Unser thinks, and we'll talk with the front row. It's just out of turn 2 as it enters the backstretch. And in the upper left-hand corner of that building is 3-time Indianapolis champion Bobby Unser, who, of course, has been here for one very long time. Bobby, have you ever seen a day like yesterday? Have you ever seen an owner pull a car out of the second row so he can try and run for the pole?
I've been here a lot of years, Paul. I have never seen it. I would not have predicted it. I would have questioned whether it was smart at the time or not. But remember, the bottom line on that thing is that this may be a record because of the rules changes, because of IRL coming and being born and all that. Could be a forever record. So that was very important to do those types of things. And setting on the pole the last race of this type was very important to them.
Well, what you're saying there is, in fact, that next year we'll have a whole new engine and car package if things remain as they are. And that package may not be as fast as what we're seeing here right now?
Well, it for sure won't be. It won't make the horsepower. It won't make as much RPM. RPM is speed here at this track. The engines won't turn that much. By the rules, they won't allow it. So these records that we're seeing are the forever records until somewhere down the road, maybe things will change and the rules change drastically. The folks have seen it yesterday.
For me, the good news, Bobby, is they'll be getting rid of turbochargers next year.
Well, it's certainly going to mean a lot less money for one thing, a lot easier, but it's going to be nice. And I think the turbocharger being gone, I mean the pump-off valve is gone, and a lot of controversies will be gone.
Bobby, you look a lot warmer today than you did yesterday. So Bobby Unser's views on the Indy 500 tonight on ABC. After America's Funniest Home Videos, it's the incredible season finale of Lois and Clark with a spectacular cliffhanger that spans both space and time. And then before Lonesome Dove, there was Larry McMurtry's still available to qualify, earned. Now what that means is these are cars that have locked a position in the 25 cars reserved for the Indy Racing League. But in order to get in the field, they still have to make a qualifying run, and they have to go at least 220 miles an hour. So when you look at the practice time, you see that there are some capable and others not at all. And then those that are qualifying for the remaining positions of those that have practiced thus far, Brad Murphy, who tried a run this morning and had an engine let go on the first lap, Danny Drynan, and Paul Durant. Those are going for the extra positions above the 25 reserved for IRL competitors. So at the Speedway now, we have begun a quiet practice session, and we'll be back after this message and a word from our AB.
3 front row guys back here in Gasoline Alley. On the outside of the front row for the 80th Indianapolis 500, of course, that'll be Davy Jones, who inherited that position late last night. We're missing Tony Stewart, who should start in the middle of the front row. He took the day off and literally did go fishing. But the man on the pole for the 2nd straight year, Scott Braden. And let's start with you first, Scott. That was a pretty darn bold move you made. You and your team decided to take a solid car out of contention just to go for the pole position.
Well, it was an exciting move, certainly. I just felt like the car was just a little slow and I didn't get a chance to go for the front row. I was a little disappointed with that. I was really pleased to be in the field, obviously, but when I went out and ran so quickly in the backup car, it made it easy. And of course, when Ari then went out and bumped Tony, it was the only thing left to do.
But now you told me you hadn't been in that car much before.
No. No,
How many laps did you have?
Well, I ran 5 total laps. I had 2 warm-ups, and I stood on it, you know, the 2nd lap, and I came around and ran a 34, and then I ran a couple 34s, and I just felt the car so good, I brought it back in. I told Larry that I said, I'd really like to qualify the car. This is Larry Currier, our team manager. And of course, John Menard was standing there, and I said, you know, I'd really like to qualify this car. This is a pole car. And of course, he said, well, you know, unless Tony gets bumped off the pole by Ari, we're not going to do this. I said, well,
Boy, there's some mixed
gosh, I understand, but
Yeah.
you know, I'd really like to go ahead and run this car because for me, qualifying at the Indianapolis 500, if you've ever got the chance to set the pole here, you got to go for it. Well, then when, of course, Ari came out and bumped him, that made it easy. They rolled it in the line. Then I'm looking, okay, now what was that average? Where am I? Because I knew it was going to be tight. I didn't have as much speed as Ari had, but I felt that I could get him on the average.
So you get Ari.
Yep.
You take the pole. Ari moves to the inside of the, of the first row. And Tony Stewart goes to the outside.
Yes.
And Davy Jones, you find yourself in the second row. And then about, what, 8 o'clock last night when they disallowed Ari's run, who told you the news that you were going to find yourself on the front row?
Well, actually, it was Buddy that does a lot of television stuff around the Speedway. You know, I hear now that it's been in the works for quite some time before we had heard about it, and the whole team was together. You know, we were kind of going through the course of the week and the day, and we were just delighted that we were fourth. You know, yes, it would have been nice to be on the front row, but with the limited track time, we're happy that we're up front.
How does it feel to start on the front row?
Oh, it feels great, you know. But when he came up and he had told us that we thought he was having us on. We thought it was a bit of a joke. And then when we found out that it was really for real, I mean, he was the man. You know, it was quite the surprise, and the whole team was just ecstatic. But you know, you go through the course. You know, it's like we ran a high 234 in the practice session just before we went out to qualify. And then we went out and we ran 232s was our average, a high 232, and it just felt like a little bit slow. The air was so dense and so heavy that it just wasn't cutting through the air, and I was a little bit down on RPM, and I'm like, am I in 5th gear or 6th gear? Because we run 5th gear in qualifying to get the most revs out of the engine. And you know, so actually I thought it was a little bit of a slow run compared to the run we had had. And then all of a sudden, you know, Tony Stewart went out, and he was just a little bit quicker, and we said, you know, we might have a good chance here. And we stayed on the front row all day. And I started thinking, you know, if I was just a little bit smoother, I could be on pole and so on. And then all of a sudden, I get knocked out to the, you know, the outside of the front row. And then I start thinking like, oh, it'd be nice to stay on the front row.
Well, you did get back on the front row. Let me ask you both one parting question real quickly. You've got the rookie, Tony Stewart, in the middle. I'm sure the three of you will sit down and talk because you're friends.
Sure.
What sort of advice are you going to give Tony?
Just make sure that when I'm fastest going into turn one, you left out the gas and let me go.
What about you, Dave?
I mean, he's not here to defend himself.
What about you, Dave?
Well, you know, generally when you go down into the first turn at the start of the race, it's a lot slower than normal. So, you know, if I happen to be carrying more speed, just kind of roll out. And just let the Dalco Electronics car lead, you know.
You know what, Paul?
The squeeze is a bad area.
Paul, it's not fair to talk to two of the three guys on the front row.
Yeah.
Tony Stewart is defenseless here today. Back to you.
Yeah, especially with somebody as glib as his teammate, Scott Brayton is. So back in the garage area, they're doing some work on cars qualified, prepping other ones. Here at the Speedway, rookie is just another way of describing tomorrow's champion. We'll talk about them when we... Only about 6 miles away from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, the city center of Indianapolis, and its somewhat modern skyline. The Speedway view that you see throughout the day, and this beautiful view comes from the Goodyear blimp, the Spirit of Akron. The Goodyear blimp will also be here for the 500-mile race, its 80th running later this month. Now, we have seen some action out on the track in the last few minutes. Cars practicing. Let's get an update from Gary Gerald.
Paul, down here at the north end of the pits, one man that a lot of people are keeping a very close eye on is Scott Sharp, a two-time qualifier for the Indy 500 in the past, still a very young racing driver, driving for A.J. Foyt, who has Marco Greco and Davey Hamilton already in the field. We're looking right down on top of the back of A.J.'s head. Deep conversation with Scott. Scott had just pulled in after running a couple of laps at better than 231 miles per hour. He has one of the top 5 speeds for the month of May at nearly 236 miles per hour. So this car, this driver, this team is very capable. Tommy LeMance, team manager, was telling us just moments ago prior to this huddle that Scott is comfortable in the car. We anticipate that in the next few minutes they're going to be rolling forward to go through the tech line, and this car will be presented for a qualification attempt.
Let's take a look at that car of Brad Murphy. He is a rookie hoping to qualify in this 500 field. Back in the garage area as they try to prepare it. Of the 22 rookies here, or 22 qualifiers here at the Speedway thus far, 9 of those are rookies. So along with that large rookie cup here this year comes some great promise. And consider the past faces that have arrived here. In 1911, they were all rookies, but it was an automotive engineer who outthought and outraced the rest as Ray Haroon became the first winner. In '58, this rookie was primarily a dirt track star. 3 years later, his first pavement win was the Indy 500. And 19 years later, A.J. Foyt became the first 4-time winner. In '63, a lanky kid from the Southwest was nominated to tame the raging power of the Novi, but he crashed against the turn 1 wall on lap 2. But by the time '81 rolled around, Bobby Unser had posted 3 500 wins. By '65, the Roadsters had all but vanished, and this rookie learned the Speedway on new technology. The rear-engine car provided his wins, as Al Unser became the second 4-time winner. That same year, as a rookie, he broke the track record. 4 years later, he won his only Indy 500 in a lifetime of trying. But Mario Andretti is still a Speedway legend. When in '78 he arrived at the Speedway, this off-road racer landed a job with Roger Penske and sat on the front row. He won the race a year later, and in just 13 years, Rick Mears would notch 4 Indy 500 wins and retire. In '82, many wondered if this road racer could handle the big oval. I was still wondering in '85 when I saw this attempt to take the lead. But Danny Sullivan became the man who spun and won at Indy.
I tell you, that still gives me chills when I watch that spin. I still can't believe I pulled it out of that one.
I tell you what, based on that picture we saw, I would like to get the listing of your dentist, too. Looks like you did a little work there, huh?
Just a little bit.
Okay.
You guys are bad.
So Danny Sullivan, the man who spun and won, now with us, and he'll be with us on the 26th of May as we have live coverage of the 80th running of the great Indianapolis 500-mile race. That's all here on ABC Sports. Well, it's quiet right now here at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, though the green light is on for practice. Everybody's brought equipment into the pits, making some adjustments, still looking for speed. You know, this is the inaugural season of this new Indy Racing League, and today's qualifying is for what will be the 3rd and final race of the season. The IRL champion, in fact, will be determined here at the Indianapolis 500. The league is designed to promote oval racing, so the first 2 races thus far have been on short ovals. The first, a brand new 1-mile track at Walt Disney World in Florida. Buddy Lazier was the first pole sitter, the veteran finally getting a chance at some first-rate equipment and proving its worth. The first race began with a clean start. Lazier grabbed the early lead. Richie Hearn, who had started in the back row, was carving his way up through the field when he took a long and scary ride. Tony Stewart, who is championed in the USAC Midget Sprints and Silver Crown, was driving for John Menard. He put on a brilliant drive and passed Lazier for the lead. Soon it was Buzz Calkins moving to the front. Eddie Cheever tangled with Scott Sharp and got into the wall. The trucks rolled quickly to his aid. So fast, in fact, that Stewart was still at speed when he arrived on the scene, and with a nifty piece of driving, avoided disaster. Buzz Calkins became the first winner of the Indy Racing League. His last win had come 2 years earlier in the Tasman Formula Atlantic. The league was now a reality. The second run came at the Mile in the Desert, Phoenix International Raceway. In the practice, Buddy Lazier had a wing come off the car on the front stretch. Then in turn 2, with no downforce, Lazier lost it and took Lynn St. James to the wall with him. Lazier's back was broken, but he struggled back to be ready for Indy. Lynn St. James was not hurt. In the race itself, Walt Disney World winner Buzz Calkins was learning the ways of this historic track when suddenly moisture appeared on his onboard camera. The lessons now went a little too far as he lost it in turn 2. Eddie Cheever got in trouble on the backstretch and slammed the wall hard, destroying the car. As he slid to a stop, the rest of the field scrambled for safety. As Roberto Guerrero tried to avoid this accident, he slammed the brakes, and Spaniard Fermin Velez slammed into Guerrero. Now Scott Sharp in the blue and white A.J. Foyt car took over the lead. Jim Guthrie fell victim to the turn 2 wall as well, again without injury. Under the yellow, A.J. Foyt calls both of his cars, Mike Groff and Scott Sharp, into the closed pits. Both suffer penalties that took away any chance to win. A.J. Foyt was smoking. That put Arie Luyendyk into the lead. Johnny Parsons jumped from his burning car on a pit stop. But JP was more frustrated than hurt. The winner of the 1990 Indianapolis 500, Arie Luyendyk, now cruised to the win of IRL race number 2. And with Arie's win in front of his hometown crowd, the stage was now set for a battle between rookie and veteran at Indy.
The world's most famous race hits the bricks May 26th.
Welcome back to Indianapolis. You know, the next time that we're on the air will be for the 80th running of the greatest spectacle in racing. What do I expect to see there? A neat mixture between veterans and newcomers. But all drivers have one thing in mind, and that's to win the Indianapolis 500. For some, it's been a lifelong dream. For others, it's been a lifelong pursuit. It really doesn't matter which group you belong to. The Indianapolis 500 is and always will be the greatest spectacle in racing. Gary?
Jack, I think it's going to be interesting to see how all the rookies respond to the pressure and for the first time of running extended distances in traffic. I think that's going to be critical. But I know one thing for sure. Arie Luyendyk, starting 21st, is going to put on one heck of a show as the fastest man ever here. Race day will be interesting from that point alone. Jerry?
You know, Memorial Day is always so magical here at Indianapolis Motor Speedway. So much excitement and emotion and enthusiasm, but this year could be even more special. You know, one of the premises this country was built on was opportunity. And finally, this year, so many young drivers will be given theirs. Bobby?
Well, the weather was bad for the fans, really bad, but good for the drivers. Only one accident out of all the rookies this year. That's astronomically nice and surprised everybody. Overall, I think that this was probably one of the nicest, most exciting first-day qualification days I've ever seen.
Well, great qualifying, but I think for the race, we're going to see some experience in the teams. I got to go with Davy Jones's team, the Gallus, and with Walker, with Mike Groff, and with the experience of Arie Luyendyk. Those are my picks for the race.
I think one thing that we have seen proven here, and it's been proven again and again throughout the history of the race, stretching back to 1911, is it doesn't seem to matter whose decals you put on the car or whether or not it's USAC or AAA or whatever it might be. The Indianapolis Speedway seems always able to create a very special sense of drama, and I think that's what we've seen here at the month of May with the 500. Hi, I'm Paul Page at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway. What you've seen was recorded earlier, and since then we have had 2 qualifiers for the Indy 500 in the second day of time trials, and so the 8th row now has Scott Sharp driving for A.J. Foyt on the inside. Marco Greco of Brazil qualified earlier, but now Paul Durant joins the field at 225.404 miles an hour. There are 24 qualifiers. Danny Sullivan, well, he's off to Monte Carlo to marry his fiancée, Brenda. Brenda, there's what you're getting. At Indianapolis, we've got 2 more days of time trials. We'll see you next on the 26th of May for the 80th running of the great Indianapolis 500.